And then just in the past few years, I've broken my wrist. I have multiple sprains in my ankles I'm playing on right now, broken a few fingers, multiple concussions, broken elbow. It'd be easier for me to name something I haven't injured.
To say Mark is a weekend warrior is an understatement. You name it, Mark plays it. Soccer, tennis, ultimate disc as in ultimate Frisbee. In fact, you could call Mark the ultimate weekend warrior, competing through all those injuries.
Yeah, I will admit I've been not great about following the medical advice about how to take the best care of my body. Not because I disagree with what the doctors have to say, because I know they're right, but because I just love playing too much.
The psychological rewards but physical challenges of the Uber Weekend Warrior on this episode of My Body Odyssey. On this show, we track the wellness journeys of our protagonists, such as Ultimate Mark, over months and seasons and years. I'm Valerie Wences.
And I'm Robert Pease with a lot of questions in mind this episode. First off, why does an athletic guy like Mark get hurt so often and so seriously?
And why does a smart guy like Mark continue to rehab but then compete again? Same intensity, injury after injury.
Interesting, isn't it? Professionally, Mark's a sustainability scientist and maybe needs to analyze his own sustainability.
Which we'll get to. But let's start where we met Mark. First leg on this odyssey, a sunny but windy summer day at the Boston Ultimate Disc Invite Tournament back in 2019.
Picture 100 teams competing or waiting to compete around a dozen fields in Devens, Massachusetts. Over 1,000 participants.
But not many as competitive as Mark.
I'm extremely competitive, and I want to win at all costs.
I do what I can to win, and if it hurts me, but it helps the team, it's worth it, in my mind.
Problem is, Mark has real physical limitations dating back to injuries in high school, when his scoliosis, or curvature of the spine, suddenly got a lot worse. The average person has a curvature of less than 10 degrees, and initially, Mark's scoliosis was only a bit more than that.
I had like a 12, 13 degree curve, which is like more than average, but it's not that bad. And then when I was in high school, I fractured a vertebrae in my back, kind of below the bad part of my scoliosis. And then things just kind of like started growing super fast, right? So I went from a straight-ish spine to, I think I had like a 62 degree curve on the top and like a 55 degree curve on the bottom. Think about a 60 degree angle on a triangle. That's almost what my spine looked like, right?
But Mark's desire to keep playing and competing never wavered. So he decided to have a very major corrective surgery.
So after my freshman year of college, when I was 18, I got a spinal fusion from the vertebrae T1, which is like basically the top of your back right before you hit your neck, all the way down to L3, which is like almost to the base of your back where your back touches your butt. And I think there's like 14 or 15 screws in there now, fully fused. It was a 6 to 8 month recovery.
And here's where the tendency to not follow the medical advice does kick in.
Being the total masochist apparently that I am, after 2 months, I like begged my parents to drive me to the high school track nearby, and I tried running, and I went maybe 20 feet and then collapsed on the track in pain.
Let's try and put that in perspective. UCSF Health, they recommend lifting nothing heavier than a dinner plate in the first 6 months after a spinal fusion. But Mark, after 2 months, he goes out for a run.
Okay, so we know a little bit about college-aged Mark, but let's move this odyssey forward a decade to Mark today. Same drive to compete, same tendency to get injured, often, and sometimes seriously.
And so we're wondering, could the inflexibility of that fused spine, which allows him to compete, have something to do with those injuries he gets while competing?
We consulted a real expert on the subject, Dr. Mohamad Bydon, a neurosurgeon at Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota.
Neurosurgeons operate throughout the body. So we do surgeries on the brain, on the spine up and down, on the peripheral nerves. So we're really sort of throughout. Our approaches are anterior, they can be posterior. We have a really sort of diversified array of options that we can offer to patients.
And he told us about the 3 different categories of spinal surgeries.
There's a category of instability of the spine, where if somebody has that, you have to stabilize the spine, meaning put in screws and rods to hold it together because it's unstable. There's a category of compression, where the nerves are being compressed. Scoliosis is an alignment issue. And it sounds like in Mark's case, he had scoliosis as a child, continued to progress, ultimately requiring surgery. And many people go through those things for many months and years to try to put off surgery, and that's fine. Surgery should be a last resort.
A last resort, but very often miraculous improvement to patients like Mark with severe scoliosis. Yet there are other risks associated with an extensive spinal fusion. Again, Dr. Bydon.
Now, the other thing that people should be aware of is there's something called adjacent segment disease, where people can develop problems at the lower or upper levels. It's not inforeseeable that as the years go by, he'll begin to develop problems, and a decision will have to be made on extending that fusion.
So is that because of his scoliosis, or is it the fusion that's contributing to potential problems?
Right. So it's a good question. The fusion that he had certainly is a part of that. Now, the other end of that becomes exactly as you're saying, which is there's a natural history, meaning as we age, we get problems anyway in the lower back. And so biomechanically, that could create more strain. In fact, does create more strain at L3-4, L4-5, and L5-S1. And so that could set him up for bigger issues faster at those segments.
And Mark is all about that strain, which, according to Dr. Bydon, could mean another major spinal surgery. And in Mark's case, possibly sooner rather than later.
How do I put this? My pain tolerance is like through the roof. As an example, one time I broke my wrist on my throwing hand, and then I played for 5 more weeks, not knowing that it was broken, until I finally thought I should probably go to the doctor and get this sprain looked at. And then I was in a cast for 2 months.
We also discussed Ultimate Mark's issues with another Mark, let's call him Expert Mark, Dr. Mark Stoutenberg, a kinesiologist at Temple University. He had back issues himself growing up in Canada, playing football. And yes, that's American football.
And I worked at the University of Miami and had the great honor of being part of some football teams there. But at the same time, I was taking classes in the discipline of exercise physiology. It was just fascinating. And it just was, I fell in love.
Dr. Stoutenberg is a huge proponent of the benefits of exercise. It's his life's calling in many ways as a researcher at Temple. He's also a program director for Exercise is Medicine, an NGO that helps medical professionals help patients to exercise not only to regain their health, but to keep their health.
But Expert Mark also recognizes competitive sports can get the better of us. And that so often seems the case with Ultimate Mark.
And so it's kind of a trade-off. And I don't think our younger selves really understand what being 50 and having chronic back pain is like. 18 years old, massive spinal fusion. I just hope people at that point would say, you know what, I got to change my lifestyle. We don't want to, but I think we have to change our lifestyle. Get in the pool, do low impact exercises, find other ways, and understand that our path in life has changed, and we have to adjust to that. And it's hard to do, really hard to do.
But Mark didn't make a major lifestyle change. Instead, he played a lot less soccer and a lot more ultimate, but same intensity while working even harder to stay on the field.
I'm in pain a lot now, but I go to physical therapy multiple times a week. I do a lot of medication. I stretch every single day. I basically live on my foam roller when I'm watching TV. As much as I can do to get it as flexible as possible. Since I can't really stretch any muscles in my upper back, I have to do as much as I can to get my lower back and my legs as stretched as possible.
And there's few players on the ultimate field, perhaps any athletic field, who so passionately play through pain and injury.
Yeah, so when I first started playing the sport, people would see me get hurt in the field and they would say, oh no, he can't go back on. This is horrible, right? Over time, I kind of just developed this persona as the person who will get hurt multiple times per game. And it's because, I mean, I just throw my body around when I play.
But aren't those injuries trying to tell us something about what we're asking our bodies to do? Again, Dr. Bydon on that clear and present danger.
It's important not to play injured. It's important to, and again, if you're a professional athlete, that's just part of your job, and they do that. But if it's important to try to avoid playing injured, because small injuries can beget bigger injuries, and it can really, get out of hand very quickly.
And Dr. Stoutenberg on the steep long-term trade-offs.
Anything we do in life to the extreme, we're going to pay the price for. If you played 15 years of basketball in your life, you're probably going to have knee pain later in life. If you played professional football, there's a good chance, you're going to suffer joint pain and replacements and different things.
Yet back in Devon's at the tournament where we first met him, no one was having more fun than Mark, despite his painful past and maybe a painful future too. In Mark's calculation, it's worth it. Not just for the competition, but the camaraderie.
I dare you to find a better community of athletes anywhere in the world than the ultimate Frisbee community. Seriously, every single person here is friendly. We're playing in a tournament with 12 other mixed teams, and I've already run into probably 30 or 40 people that I know from other teams.
With that in mind, we met with Mark again.
Odyssey Part 2.
A remote interview late in winter of 2022, wondering how he was doing.
And was he planning to play Ultimate Disc again this summer season?
Being totally upfront, like a couple months ago, or maybe 10 months ago, and I tried to get back into Ultimate, like post-COVID, quote, like still in COVID, but the seasons had started back up. I had fractured a bunch of bones in my back without realizing it.
Wow.
Okay, so Mark, you have a PhD in engineering. If we understand your job description, you're measuring the consequences, the health effects of global warming?
Yeah, I mean, very, very close. Yeah, so my role at my current company is I am what's called a sustainability scientist. I look at the climate change potential, the human health impacts, and the water impacts of various consumer products.
Well, let's say, for discussion's sake, that, Mark, you are the planet. Can you apply your sustainability analysis to yourself and question some of these activities that you throw yourself into?
I think that's actually a really good way to put it. No, seriously, for everybody, you always hear that thing hey, your body's a temple, take care of it. But for me, I think that my body, I know, I've seen the x-rays. I know that my body is not as much of a temple as it is a slowly devolving, Aztec-looking pyramid that's falling apart over time. So for me, this body as a temple thing is a valuable lesson for most people, but at the same time, so is the mind, right? And if I didn't have competition, if I didn't try to be bettering myself on the field or on the pavement or wherever I was going to be trying to play a sport or improve my energy levels or improve my physique, I don't know if my mental health would be as strong as it is.
Okay, so yet another reason Mark subjects himself to physical injury. Not just love of competition, not just the community, but the behavioral benefit from all of the above. But still, there are other sports, other activities with communities.
I did try yoga. I can't do yoga. Almost my entire back is fused together. It's all one piece, right? So I can't even tie my shoes in a normal way. So the idea of doing downward facing dog and then trying to bend over and touch my ankle it actually gives me night terrors. I could not do that.
Well, what about, hiking? What about things that...
I love hiking. So I will say, yeah, those are the sports I play that are team sports, but I hike as much as I can. I don't know if you've ever heard of disc golf. Mm-hmm. I play a ton of disc golf. It's my post ultimate career retirement plan for sports is competitive disc golf.
Yeah, I love your retirement analogy too. Like most people, it's just normal golf, but for Frisbee players, it's disc golf. So speaking of though, have you been able to go back to Frisbee at all? I mean, maybe not with your current latest injury, but did you sneak any Frisbee in during the pandemic?
I played for the first time since April of last year this week, actually.
Congratulations.
I'm horrible now. The amount of the rust that was coming off, I looked like a 1950s old car. Like just every single step I took, you could physically see trails of rust coming off of me. It was wild.
And will you continue with it? I mean, that's probably
I'm pumped. Yeah.
Ultimate Mark, pumped for another season. And that kind of concerned us. Honestly, I'd been hoping Mark might find something other than sports to absorb his angst and energy, just for his own sustainability.
Totally. In the arts, possibly. No scorekeeping, no wins and losses.
No hurling the body onto the field.
And it turns out, Mark does have an artistic side.
Recently, I started picking up neon bending. So like, you basically, you stand over a flame with like glass tubing and you make neon signs by hand, and it's awesome. And my girlfriend and I have turned that into a little bit of a competition. So the competitive nature doesn't leave there either, because we're always down to see who can make like the better 90-degree bend relative to the other. So that doesn't leave as a result. I can stay competitive there.
Yeah, well, it's always good to compete intensely around flames. What could go wrong?
Oh my God, it's the best. I'm sweating. I have burns all over my fingers. It's so worth it. My 90-degree bends they're at like 95 degrees. They're not great, but they're getting there. So it's little improvements every day, even if it's not in sports. It's important.
Oh my gosh.
Ultimate Mark's Body Odyssey. His mind very happily goes to competition in anything he does, but his body faces really steep challenges on the field.
And severe burns in the studio. Still, you have to love that spirit.
Exactly. Maybe spirit will endure if bone and skin do not.
But next time with Mark, we'll discuss more of that mind odyssey, meaning those huge behavioral benefits he gets from ultimate and other sports.
So I am trading off a little bit of my own body's health in exchange for what I perceive as more happiness and a better mental health. And I think that's just as important as making sure your body feels good,
How about your body odyssey? Do you have a story to tell about the rewards and challenges of your active lifestyle? If so, we'd love to hear from you via our website, mybodyodyssey.com, or on social media.
My Body Odyssey follows the wellness journeys of protagonists over the months and seasons and years. Next up, we'll meet Diane, an avid, if amateur triathlete with type 1 diabetes who's constantly balancing on a blood sugar balance beam.
Next thing you know, I'm inside an ambulance.
We're going to learn a lot about the unique challenges of diabetes and exercise next time. 1 in 10 Americans have diabetes. Many more are pre-diabetic.
More Odysseys coming soon on all major apps.
My Body Odyssey is a Fluent Knowledge production. Original music by Ryan Adair Rooney.